back, everyone, to episode 2 of Wedtalk. Today we're going to be going over recapping the weddings we had on the weekend. We had 4 in 3 days, so a little bit to go over there. Plus we're going to be discussing how to start out as a wedding videographer, what equipment you're going to need, how to go about getting your first bookings, how to manage your bookings, how to put your editing together, all those sorts of bits and pieces. So stick around and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two, and let's do it.
100%. And I don't think we introduced ourselves last podcast. So I am Jordan and you are Riley.
And I'm Riley, yes.
I think we went straight into just talking about trash.
Yeah, well, I think we didn't get too many reviews from others, but we did a lot of reviewing ourselves. I think
internal feedback.
Yeah, rambling was one thing, and not introducing ourselves was the other. So that's who we are, and hopefully today everything's a little bit more to the point.
A bit more structured.
But it is also episode 2. So
we're still learning.
It's going to take time.
We're still learning.
We'll get there.
But
yeah, start off. So we had a wedding.
One
Thursday, 2 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday.
Yep.
So we associate shot Thursday, or I associate shot Thursday at Stones, which is just mint. Then Saturday, I was at Mont de Sol, I think that's how you say it.
Mont de Sol? What's that?
Callista.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so it was, the bride, her auntie and uncle own the venue. I think they used to do a lot of weddings. Now they don't really do too many anymore, but very like Italian, Tuscan vibes, lots of vines, lots of like orange old brick walls. It looked really cool. And you had a garden wedding.
Yeah, I did one on Saturday for a couple in the Wilson Botanic Gardens, which actually was really nice. I was actually quite surprised because we've done one there which was, it was shot after a house wedding. This was during COVID.
Yeah, a while ago now.
So we didn't quite grasp the whole area, if that makes sense. Like I actually got to walk the whole place.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot there. And they've got like a really nice, you walk up a hill and they had just a really nice private section for the ceremony and that. And it was actually really, really nice.
Yeah.
I must admit.
Yeah.
For a public venue, great.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
At least there's plenty of variety for couples and stuff there as well. Like you can sort of stay on site and walk around. You guess you got to manage people and in the shots and whatnot. But yeah. And sounds like it turned out pretty good. And
so that was in Berwick, by the way, if you want to know the venue.
Yes.
They had permits and all sorts of stuff. Like
I
had a photography permit on the day. I was like, no one else could take any photos on the day. I think there was something structured like that. So they're quite well run. Through like they got like a couple of staff just running around, just getting everything sorted because there's obviously multiple events got baby showers going on,
that's right,
different parts of the park and stuff. But the actual wedding part was just really, really well set up, and everyone was on time and there were no issues.
That's what you want. And then Sunday we were at Marybrook Manor.
Yes.
Which is also not a bad spot up in the Dandenongs there. Something different. There was a gender reveal at that as well, which was cool. It's nothing like introducing what you're having to all your friends and families, like just after your ceremony. So no, there was plenty of different variety over the weekend, which was good. But it's good to relax on Monday, and we've got
a little bit of a break.
Yeah,
we've got your wedding on Saturday.
Mine on Saturday, so that's exciting. That's coming up really, really quick. And then we've got actually by the time this airs, I probably would have already been married. Yep. So it was great. But and then we've got a week off, maybe 2 weeks off.
Yep.
And then we're back into it.
Yeah.
So 8 weddings in March, so it's going to be a big one.
Yeah, I think we're back into it on the 17th.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. And then we got a massive April period there, and just before my baby's due. Yes. So I got like 8 weddings before, just to smash us out before I'm done.
Yeah.
They're coming in thick and fast, and we got a few down Phillip Island way, which is down my way where we're filming today. So I'm actually looking forward to those ones, like Phillip Island Winery and those sort of places are really, really cool to shoot.
That'd be good. But so the main thing we want to discuss today is getting into wedding videography. We're going to sort of stray from photo and video and more focus on the video side of things, as there's a little bit more involved equipment-wise and probably post-processing than there is photography-wise. So basically, we're just going to kick it off with like the equipment that you need. It's obviously where you're going to start. So your main one being like your camera selection. So I think a few things to look forward to, or to look for basically is you want something that if you're going to use a gimbal is probably lighter weight, and there's a lot of like mirrorless, like every brand has their mirrorless stuff now. So basically you can either rent some gear if you want, and you can kind of suss out what you like. Otherwise just watch some YouTube videos and figure out kind of like maybe look for the color, because they've all got different color profiles. But yeah, basically what we'd say is like something that shoots in log. So you can really develop your own style. You can always shoot in the standard picture profile and then move to log once you get to understand the camera a bit more. Like we shoot on Canon mainly, and then you've got the Blackmagic as well.
Yeah.
But I would say like after the 12 months we've done, or 18 months, going full on, probably stick to one brand.
Yep.
It's going to make everything easier for you.
I think I've been through most brands out there. And in terms of if you don't know what log is, if you're just getting into video or whatever, it basically just shoots a flatter profile. So when you go back into the editing room, you can bring back more highlights and shadows than you could just recording straight out of camera.
Yeah.
It's just a picture profile. If you are on Canon, Sony, Nikon, whatever it is, you can actually create your own custom profile as well. So if you find your camera, your profile might even change lens to lens depending on what you've got. So you can adjust, set all your custom picture profiles. Just go on YouTube, look it up. There's plenty of tutorials now on how to change color profiles and stuff. Like you might want to have a little less contrast and a little less saturation. I'd say those are like the key ones. And then you can always bring those back when you go to edit. Whereas if there's too much contrast, there's too much saturation, you can get into a little bit of trouble in terms of bringing colors back. And then as you bring something down or up, something else changes, and then you're going to bring that, and it's just a juggling act between trying to get it balanced.
Yeah.
So,
and even if depending on your budget and your camera you buy to start out with doesn't have log, you can always go in and, like Geordie said, just in your like native picture profile, you can just drop your settings, adjust those settings, so you can drop your contrast down, drop your saturation down, and it'll give a bit of a flatter look. Like I know on my Nikon Z6, like that can shoot log, but only if you've got like an external monitor on it. Whereas there was a guy that actually made a custom picture profile for it, and basically everything was really saturated down. And I was actually doing a little bit of editing yesterday, and it lined up almost with my Canon footage. Like it looked basically the same, just with a correction log, a conversion LUT back on it, and then some color on top. So, but there's plenty like brands wise, like I know Canon,
we may as well go through the brands.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably just start off with cameras, and we'll just work through. So to just give you, we're shooting on two separate brands today. Like we can actually give you a live demonstration on the podcast today. If you're listening, there should be a video playing on the Spotify app. If you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple Podcasts, it won't play, but just jump on YouTube and everything should be on there as well. So I am looking into the Canon EOS R5, which is your camera. So this is what it looks like. We have the picture profile set, nearly contrast all the way down, saturation nearly all the way down as well. And this is because Riley's camera, he is on the Blackmagic 6K Pro. So this shoots pretty flat. Like this is a film camera, and we've actually got he's actually got a LUT in there. So basically, he's bringing all the colors back because we are live podcasting. We don't want to have to chuck a LUT on this afterwards. It's just in terms of efficiency, but it can shoot pretty. Like this will record into whatever storage device you have, really, really flat, and then you just bring those back. So it gives you a lot of flexibility.
So yeah, like there's Canon, if you like go on entry level, like Canon EOS R, we just picked one of those up the other day for our contract shooter to do real estate and learn some more video stuff. That's got C-Log, which is Canon's basic picture profile. You've got the Sony series, like the Sony Alpha series, like the A7, I'm not 100% on, but like A7 III, even though that camera came out a while ago, like the quality you can get out of that is really, really good. Used to shoot on the Lumix G5.
I used to be on the Panasonic G5. I've shot on the Canon 1DX. I would just say if you are shooting in log and I find this with the Blackmagic, and I'm not sure if the Canons can do it because I haven't used them for a while with the log feature, is just make sure your settings are right, because you can be shooting in log and you put the LUT back on and it's completely different. Your white balance is off, your ISO is off, whatever it is, because shooting flat, you can basically see, like with Riley's camera, I'll just quickly flick. I'm not sure if I might be able to flick. I'll quickly just do a little test, but you'll be able to see it change from a LUT on to no LUT.
Yeah. And so for everyone in the car as well. So you can see.
I'm not sure if you can see that. So I've just flicked the display LUT on. So I can have that running and it will record this flat profile, but it will have a LUT on top so I can see in camera what it looks like. So I can adjust my colors on the fly. Yeah. So I'm not sure if the Canon can do that.
If you've got an external monitor, you can do that. Basically, like the Ninja Adamus is the main one. You can bang that on top, connect it up, and you can have all your LUTs preloaded on there, and you can see what your colors and stuff are going to look like. Otherwise, each camera, you can do plenty of research on YouTube. They'll have like what they recommend of how you expose. So like that on the R5, I always try and expose 2 stops over. Make sure I keep my white balance quite even, because even in flat, you can see if everything's got a kind of orangey look, especially as you get later into the night. More venues have really like warm lighting, something else to keep in mind. But yeah, there's plenty of brands out there. So I'd recommend, if you want to go down the route of Canon, you want to get into it, the EOS R is a good entry level one. The A7 III for Sony is pretty good. Like I said, I got a Nikon Z6 as well, but there's other versions of that. If you can find the color correction, the flat profile that I found, it doesn't actually look too bad, but I wouldn't say it's got as much dynamic range and everything as these. Unless you put a monitor on top, you can get 10-bit color.
10-bit color,
which is really good. That's what the R5 shoots in.
But as we've found with 10-bit, it can be pretty hard to process in computer.
Yeah, so you got to make sure you got a decent setup on that front as well.
So this is where video can get quite technical, because I would say your best, like if I was to start from clean slate, I'd probably just start with the Canon because the colors and that are incredible.
Autofocus is good.
It's got autofocus, like it's got one of the best autofocus systems out there. Sony and that are starting to develop quite good autofocus systems.
They're pretty close now.
But in saying that, it's what lens you chuck on it as well. Like we could chuck a terrible lens on this R5 and it's not going to look very good, but we've got a nice RF
24 to 70, which is something
lens
else
on there. It looks just crisp.
Yeah.
And the same with Riley's camera. Like we've got a Canon lens on the Blackmagic that is just a really high quality lens. Now they're not cheap, but the quality that you're going to get is, yes, you can shoot 6K, 8K now, but it doesn't matter unless you have a really good lens on there.
Yeah, your lens, and you hear a lot of people say as well, like we get questions and you see other people that you might follow on YouTube. It's like, oh, what camera do I start out with and when do I need to upgrade? But you want to get a body that it fits your budget and it can do the basics. Like, you really need 50 frames. Like everyone wanted 100 frames a few years ago was the way to go. But 50 frames, especially for weddings, running file sizes and stuff like that, 50 frames is really good. You can slow it down.
And you can have it real time as well.
And then you can switch to 24. Most of them got custom buttons so you can switch between on the day. Makes it really easy. But
even at 50 frames, you can just halve it and it'll play that real time feedback. So if you're recording audio and you're like, oh, I forgot to switch it to 24, 25 frames, then it's still going to be recording in a 24 frames format, but it's just going to be recording double the frames, if that makes sense. So you can slow it down, you can speed it up. Yeah. And let's say you're recording some speeches that's real time, that audio is going to be synced up. So then you can play it back in real time in 25 frames a second, which is cool.
Yeah. But you want to get a good basic body to start off with, but you really want to invest in your money in your lenses. Like your lenses where you're going to get sharper images. It can slightly change your color profile as well. Lower apertures, going to be better for low light, bits and pieces like that. So most of them will come with a kit lens around an f4, which you can get away with when you're starting out, no problems. When it comes to a little bit later, if you're doing speeches and it's dark, you might need a light to go with it. Like we use a light with pretty all our speeches now, depending on timing and venue and whatnot. But like 24 to 70 is what I shoot on, and I can shoot pretty well the whole wedding day. 24 is wide enough to get what I need. 70 I can still float around the back and punch in. And if you really want to punch in a bit more, they've got the crop in as well.
Yeah.
You can crop the sensor in too. So,
but going back to cameras, would you recommend probably like an EOS R to start out?
Yeah.
Like it's probably around the $2,000 mark.
Yeah.
It's quite a good middle ground. And then, depending on what your requirements are going forward, you can upgrade to maybe the next step is an EOS, maybe R6.
Yeah.
I'd say.
I reckon if you're going to go all out, if you want to really push for it, your R5 is going to be a little bit better.
Yep. But in terms of like tiers, you're probably going from an EOS R. And this also, if you're shooting photo as well, you're going to probably want to stick in the Canon family. Once you start getting out of Canon into Sonys, into Panasonics and stuff, yes, the photos are good. But in terms of hybrid cameras, Canon is just your best bet because everything's going to look the same whether you go from photo to video. So you're going to know your settings in and out. Whereas we find the Sony cameras are really, really good at video, but they lack in the photo aspect.
I think you can, like, I could go on someone's profile and I can tell if they're a Canon user or if they're a Sony user. Like the colors come off a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the person shooting.
Yeah,
as well.
people master everything, but in terms of learning that specific tool pretty quickly, like you could spend hours and hours and hours learning the Sony and you can master it. But in terms of ease of use, just getting it out of the box and starting to shoot it, Canon is
really
going
good.
to be your best bet.
Yeah. So yeah, then I'd say pick your body, invest in your lenses is where you're going to get it. If you start off with the lower budget one or a lower priced camera and then you go like, this is what I want to do, you can always then upgrade to a higher quality one and then keep that as your backup camera. So, when it comes time to shooting speeches and ceremony stuff, like you want to have your B-roll camera, which is on you, and then your A-roll camera, which, constantly records all the time. That's probably going to be the best way to go about that. Get your lower one, get into it, shoot some weddings or just go and shoot it, use it. If you'll find that weddings is your thing, you're definitely going to need a secondary camera. But there's also options for secondary cameras for Canon-wise, like the Canon M50. We use that
so if you
which is pretty good.
If you're on a bit of a strict budget and you maybe want to just invest in your like a sole primary camera, you might get an EOS R or something around that $2,000 range. In terms of what you get for video specs, like you're going to get your 4K, you hopefully get your 4K 50. But then for your secondary cameras, you might want to invest. Maybe don't have as much money to invest, and you might go, what is in the range? What can shoot 4K, 50 frames? You're probably going to have to give away just at that price point, like a lower price point. But for $1,000, you can get a Canon M50, Canon M50, brand new. And we are advocates of used gear as well. I think if you're a start-off photographer or even a seasoned photographer or videographer, you can find, I don't think it's quite worth getting the new gear now. Like you can find really good used gear. Yeah. And depending on how your business is set up and there's depreciation and all these tax write-offs you have, but in terms of just bang for buck, you can get, a used Canon EOS R for maybe $1,500. And then like a Canon M50, you might get one of those for $600. Yeah. And then for just over $2,000, you've got a Canon EOS R, you've got a Canon M50, and then you might have $1,000 or $2,000 to spend on a lens. Yeah. Because the M50 will come with a kit lens, which is more than fine. Yeah. I shot on there on a podcast the other day, and it's just perfect for what it does. Yeah. Shoots 4K, colors match up with all these other Canon cameras and stuff. So it's just, it's actually a really good web camera as well. Like to plug into your computer and lift your webcam Zoom meetings up a level too. Yeah,
that's true. I think you basically want to pick your camera, do a little bit of your retros, pick your camera to suit your budget, check over that whether it's got log or not, if it shoots slow-mo, what its autofocus is like, battery life, overheating, bits and pieces like that. But then the other main thing is going to really elevate your films and is going to be a necessity is audio. And we've gone through many different ways to capture our audio at weddings, and you're probably more on the audio side than I am. But the things I'd say is like an easy, cheap way to get into it is just get the lapel mics.
Yeah, I think so. I think we use, when we started actually, we just invested in some pretty good solitary microphones. So they record within itself. It'll be like a little box, and it records to itself. So it's not wirelessly transmitting to another device or anything. Now, the issue with that is that you have to obviously match it up with video in post, but the quality that they do record is pretty good. So we use the Tascam, I think that DL150 or something like that.
Yeah.
Really, really good. They come in some different colours. So they come in black and white. So if you ever want to mic up a bride, it's white. And we used to use a thigh strap. So the microphone used to sit in the thigh strap of the bride, and then we'd mic it into the wedding dress, and then it'd be like a little sticky that would stick at like the front of the dress, just above her chest. So you could capture clear audio, but you couldn't see it when people were taking photos and stuff. So it was completely hidden. Little bit of mucking around trying to get it all set up and mic'd up, but that's a really good starting point and a really good backup source.
Yeah.
And for the groom, it's just on his suit jacket and then in his side pocket.
Yeah. And those are good because they're easy to slip on and off. Don't forget after the ceremony to take them off.
Yep.
One, they only run on like a AA or AAA
I think it's on
battery.
AAA battery.
Yeah.
The benefits with those ones though is because how they record is they'll record 15 minutes and then it'll stop.
And start
it'll stop within within itself, and then start recording another 15 minutes. So if you've got it on, like let's say you've got 3/4 of a battery and you're like, oh, should I put in a new one? Should I not? You're probably going to be okay because it is recording to that micro SD card 15 minutes. So you're going to have, when you go into post, you're not just going to have one audio file. You might have 8 to 10.
Yeah.
So, and it also has dual recording as well. So it can record a backup track in addition to what it's already recording. So you might end up with 16 files. Like it's pretty incredible what these little ones can do.
Yeah.
And you can customize them to remove background noise. You can adjust the levels. There's a really good video. I forgot what his name is. He's got like a beard. He's on YouTube. He's really popular. He actually goes through, because that's what he does as well. He does weddings and stuff. I'm not sure now, and he went through the whole Tascam stuff. So I'd say the Tascams are probably like your best start off. They're a little bit expensive. They're about $300 each. They're a bit pricey, but peace of mind. And as we found out,
you need
with video, with audio, you need it.
Yeah, there's a couple other options you got as well. Like you've got when we moved to wireless, we used the wireless Rode Go mics.
Yep.
We've got the second variation of those. Basically, they just sit on top of your camera, plug into the mic jack, and then they're the little ones you see like influencers and stuff where when they're at the gym or they're talking, and it's just like the little square. You can get the little dead cats that go on them to dampen the sound, but they're really good because you can record two. You could have one main plug to your camera, and you can have two receivers going off the one as well. They're really, really good to pop on celebrants because the longer Tascam ones with the mic in the box. Most celebrants are female, so dresses, pockets, not really.
Well, that's what we did on when was it, Sunday at Marybrook. You mic'd up the celebrant.
Yep.
It was inside, and you had like the little dead cat thing on, and was like, well, there's no wind. So if it's windy, you're going to want that little dead cat little fluff ball on it. If you're inside, there's no wind, take it off.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get clear audio. Like that little dead cat will just nullify your audio quality just down a tad.
Especially if you're outside.
So you're better off to take it off if you're inside.
Yeah.
And then we mic'd up the groom. I don't think we had him set up just on the stationary one, like the Tascam. But what we normally would do is mic up the celebrant and the groom up on that wireless mic go if we can.
Yeah.
And then record straight into one of our stationary cameras just off to the side of the ceremony.
Yeah. So you got those as well. They're really, really good because they're quick to set up. And then when they're in the camera as well, which is something we've started doing, you can actually plug headphones into your headphone jack. And when the camera is on, doesn't even have to be recording, but you can hear what the mic is hearing. So I remember the other day I was at a wedding and I was basically just listening, and it was a little bit quiet on the bride's end because you can adjust the decibel level, the gain on it. So it was I think they're set at like -30 because they can peak quite easily. I just dropped it down to like -25 or something. The audio was clear, but if I hadn't had the headphones to check that, like we had in previous times, it might be a little bit quiet and you've got to bring it up in post, whereas with the headphones, you can just do it in real time. You don't have to have them on the whole time. You can just sit them on your tripod, go back and check it. And it's just another way to make sure everything's coming through crystal clear. And then our main one, which probably gets your best audio, is we use a Zoom H6 to tap into the back of the Celebrant's PA system. These are a little bit pricier, and there's a few cable variations and stuff to get.
Yeah,
but
there are cheaper options. When we started, we just got that one just because we read reviews on stuff on it, and there's just a few additional features that we're using it for. Like you can actually record full podcasts out of it. But there are cheaper options. Like I have a handy recorder as well. That does all the necessary things, like an auto level. Like if it's pretty good, it's not as good as the H6 because you can actually set the level. But what will happen is if you've got a really loud, say, Celebrant, and she's going up and down and like with her voice, then it's not going to, peak and remove her highs. So they're pretty good. They're about $150. And you just get them, just go to DJ City, just get a bunch of cords. Just go in there and go, hey, mate, I've got this. What can I record? Well, give me every single cable that I might need to plug into a DJ Dex, into a Celebrant's mic. And the amount of issues we've run into Celebrant's mics, PAs as well, is they don't all have outlets. So that's why you always need your lapel mics and that to cover audio. And then we also run kind of like mini boom mics off our cameras as well as a fourth redundancy audio source, which pick up really good audio coming out of like a straight PA, which worst case, if everything fails, then we've got that. It's not going to be as good, but at least we've got something. And it's like we have to go through 3 sets of issues to get to that point. So we're hoping like that's the last resort. But yeah, those handy recorders are $150. You can get yourself just a pair of these headphones. We find these are really good. I think JB's got them on sale at the moment for like $60. And especially in like loud environments, you might want over the ear ones because it can get rid of that background noise. Otherwise, if you just want to use, the Apple earphones, they just plug in with like that 3.5 millimeter cable. They work just as well too.
So I reckon that's amazing. Make sure your audio is really, really good. Other little bits and pieces that you'll probably need equipment wise when you're starting out is tripod. Probably get 2. You can get them pretty cheap off Amazon, or you can even go into like JB Hi-Fi, Ted's Cameras, all those places. You can get some in there as well.
Probably just a high quality tripod. If get a high quality tripod, if it's not a video tripod, and there is a difference. Like the video tripods they'll be like their 3 legs will be connected, so they can't be kind of tippled over as easily, and the legs, one leg can't come in closer than the other, and then it chucks off your balance. So the video tripods will stay level, which we're shooting off now. Whereas we're actually on another tripod over here, which is shooting Riley. That's just got 3 legs, but they can all kind of move as they like. But it's a Manfrotto one. They're really high quality. They're really nice and quite stiff. So you're not going to have any collapses, or they're going to be a little bit harder to knock over. But if you're using it for video and you've got, expensive, you've got a quite expensive camera on there, you just want something stable. Don't cheap out on just a cheap photography tripod. It's got like really scrawny legs, and then hope that no one knocks it over, and you're always constantly looking over just to see if anyone's about to knock it over. Like
there's obviously everything's depending on your budget, but that's probably one thing, like you're saying, if you've spent all this money, invested $3,000 or even $2,000, obviously depending on, what's expensive to you. But if you put that into your camera setup and then you're putting it on like a $30 tripod,
expect bad things.
Don't, if it blows over easy in the wind, or it snaps easily or something like that, just, expect that is a possibility, as opposed to these Manfrotto ones and stuff we've got, like they're made of alloy.
And they'll fix them as well. So if they break, Manfrotto really, really good in that aspect. But for like video tripod, this one that's sitting on now, that was $110, I think. Like they're not overly expensive for a video tripod. So that's the one that's going to stay together. And it's actually got like a hook on the bottom, so you actually add like sandbags if you're like really worried that it's going to stay where it is. And then the photo tripod, so a Manfrotto, really nice, well built one. you're probably up around like the 300 range. So it just depends what you want to do with the budget. But if you're doing photography and video, you might just want to invest in a photography tripod that's going to give you that flexibility. Like it's just up to you.
So I'd say like if you're going to get started out in wedding like videography and you wanted like 2 camera setup with some audio, tripod, maybe even carry cases and stuff as well. Like I reckon if you've got a budget of, let's say $4,000, you could get go $5,000, round it up easy. It does sound like a fair bit, but this is for if you wanted to completely kit yourself out, you could easily.
This is video too. Like photography, you can do a little bit cheaper, but this is video. So.
Yeah, so you could always get. We'll just use Canon as the example. That's what we shoot on. You get an EOS R. You probably get it with a kit lens for like I don't know $2,600. Probably going to be like a. I don't know if it necessarily be a 24 to 70. They normally come in like an 18 to 100.
Yeah, you might be able to find a good used lens as well. Like used lens market is really, really good. You might even be able to snag up an RF lens potentially for under $1,000 these days.
If you get, we'll do it as if you're going to go full kit. Like if you want to buy everything brand new.
Yeah, brand new. Yeah.
So you get something like that. You get the M50. They come with a little. Was it like 15 to?
Yeah, it's got a 15 to. Oh, that is a good question. I think it's a
like
15.
It's like a 40 mil or something.
Yeah,
like that.
15 to 40 mil or something. Yeah.
So you can pick one of those up for around $1,000. So you're in it for $3,500 there. Then if you want to get the video tripod Jordy was talking about, they're newer branded from Amazon. They're about $100 each. Mm-hmm. So you can get 2 of them. So you're at
Amazon's great. Like in terms of brands and stuff, like accessories and that. Like newer is really, really good these days compared to like your Manfrotto. And then you got obviously Godox and stuff for lights, light stands and all that sort of stuff. So you're like you're at $100 for a tripod.
Yeah. So you'd be like $3,700 in total. Plus you can get one of those Rode wireless Go mics, which come with I paid $330 and it came with 1 receiver. You can get them that come with 2. So then you're at $4,000. You could get a lapel as well, take you to $4,300. That's basically tripods, camera, backup camera, audio sorted. Then as sneaky little tip, don't buy Pelican cases at the start. Go to Bunnings, buy the Tactics boxes. 100%. They're all the way at the back in storage. They are like
Tactics
$80 for a good size one. And
they've got one on rollers now. I think it's 70 centimeters by 30 now. I tried to find it in Bunnings the other day just to have a look at it and just see the size of it. But that'll fit everything, and that's on rollers, everything. And that was I think it was $99.
Yeah, which is cheap.
And it's on rollers. It's got wheels. These Pelican cases can get upwards of like $600-700, and that's like the case itself is like $300, and then they charge you like $300 for foam.
Yeah,
and you're like, what?
Yeah, it's expensive. So go there. That's safer than having a camera bag as well. Especially like George said, they're hard case. They come like dust proof and
they are handy. They can be a little bit. So you might want to with these Tactics cases is Riley and me. Only started doing this probably 12 months ago. Is put all like your audio stuff into like its own separate case. Because then you can take that anywhere. You can take that just to the ceremony. Yeah. You can just take that to reception.
Yeah.
And within that, you're going to want to have extra batteries as well, which you can obviously just slot into that audio case. And then you're just carrying around a little case and your 2 potential cameras and you're sorted. Yeah. Like you just got this little case. You're not having to lug around this massive Pelican case or multiple bags and stuff. Like it's just easy.
Yeah.
So have all your audio cables in there, all your batteries, more SD cards, more storage.
Yeah.
In case you run out of storage on a card. Yeah. That's probably a good point to touch on is just cards. Just have 4 or 5 backups of cards. Like seriously, like
SD cards are about $80.
There's nothing worse than being at a wedding. You're like, you have to watch the storage the whole time. Yeah. So just get a few cards. They're pretty cheap. Yeah. Amazon's always got sales and stuff going on, so you can snag 128 SD card for I think it was like $50.
Yeah. So you get a few of those. So when you base it up, we had the Tactic boxes at around they range in size and price. Say up to 100. You could buy one of those. You could buy probably 4 128 SD cards, and you can buy some cheap batteries off Amazon and a couple of little bits of like camera cleaning and stuff. And you're easily in that $5,000. You'll be able to get 2 cameras, 2 tripods, hard case to keep everything in, spare batteries, SD cards. And then the only other thing you might want to look into is lights, if you really want to up that sort of speeches production value. But other than that, like $5,000, you can be completely kitted out and off and shooting. And then once you've got all that, sort of just comes down to like learning to edit picking your own style. So like a lot of people say, when you start out, find someone that you like, try and replicate that style to a degree, and then put your own twist on it. So you're not basically just copying the next person. So that's another cost that obviously comes into it. It's like Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve. Like Premiere Pro's month-to-month subscription.
Yeah, that's the only downside to some of the other editing platforms is it's not kind of like a one-off fee, but it does have the most flexibility because with the Adobe programs, you learn one, and then if you go into, let's say, Photoshop or Illustrator or any of these others and you want to tinker or you want to go into one of their audio platforms, they will run the same. So it's like learning one of their programs once, and then the other programs are just like a mildly different version.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's it comes down to yourself as well. Like you
Final Cut Pro is really, really good if you just want to pay that one off. I think it's like $300 or $400.
DaVinci Resolve is the same.
DaVinci Resolve is the same. A little bit more tricky in terms of your color grading and stuff. Is you got a lot more flexibility, but it can be hard for someone to learn that software. But it is laid out very simply. So you get in there and go, what is going on? What do I do? But it's actually laid out very simply until you learn it, and just trial and error. Like I've edited in all three of those.
Yeah.
And I just find Premiere Pro is probably the best because I know Photoshop and all those.
Yeah. I do all my stuff through Premiere Pro. I tried DaVinci, and like Jody was saying, when I went on it, I was like,
what's going on?
What's going on here? Like it's broken up into like 7 steps, and
like you go from file input, go into your cutting stage, then you go into your editing stage, then you go into your graphics stage, and then you go into your color grading stage, and then into your audio stage, or the audio might be before, and then you go into your export stage. So it's like in steps down the bottom. So you just go 1, 2, 3, 4.
But at the end of the day, like if you've got no prior editing experience, and you're starting from scratch, like you're going to pick it up as you go along. So that's like for me going from Premiere Pro, like it's laid out a lot more basic, but probably slightly limited, I'd say, in what you can do. Yeah. But if you want to make, if you just want to have everything laid out simply and be able to keep track of things, like I think Premiere Pro is really good for that, and it's pretty popular. The only thing is it crashes all the fucking time, which is a pain in the ass. So make sure you're constantly saving your work.
Out of all of them, that one crashes the most. Yeah. 100%.
It's Adobe though. Adobe does that quite
well. And it just depends on your computer and stuff. So just always have, when you're editing, just have auto save on, so it's constantly saving. So if it does crash, at least if, you might have lost 2 or 3 minutes of work rather than half an hour, an hour. Yeah. You got to start again.
I find as well though with Premiere Pro, like doing a little bit of color grading and stuff as well, like I think I find it a lot easier to work with. DaVinci I tried, and you got to make nodes and things got to go all over the shot. Whereas with this, like when I edit, I have 3 adjustment layers. I have one that goes above the footage, which has a correction log, a correction LUT, sorry. So basically you can go on like your camera manufacturer's website, and they'll have a LUTs package that you can download, which basically takes your log footage, which is that flat look, back to what it would look like normally.
Yep.
And then from there you apply
brings all
your
the color back.
Brings all the color, like it brings it back to just standard. Like there's no like
how you saw
extra
it with
coloring. Exactly. And then from there you can apply your LUTs from there. So I normally use 2 LUTs from the LUT package that I bought. But otherwise you can just have one on top. You can make all your tweaks and stuff in that first adjustment layer where you put the correction one, so your exposures and basic temperature and whatnot, and then you can go into your individual clip if things need to be tailored further from there. But it's just easily structured and laid out.
Premiere Pro is probably like the beginner. I wouldn't even say it's beginner to advanced, but like in terms of if you're starting out, there is 20 times the amount of tutorials on that Premiere Pro because it's just
it's easy to pick
It works
up
on Windows. Like Final Cut's obviously only an Apple software. You can't use it on Windows unless you're doing the whole back end and get Windows on your Mac, but you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there really is, if you're on a Windows computer, you've probably only got 2 options of Premiere Pro or DaVinci. And if you're on a Mac, you've got a chance of all 3. Like you can go on Final Cut. I'd say Final Cut and Premiere Pro, they're going to have the most tutorials. So if you're ever stuck and you're like, what's going on? How can I adjust this? How can I adjust this? Like my audio's got this problem. Can I fix it? There's going to be tutorials on YouTube. DaVinci's getting there. It's becoming more popular because there is these a lot more cameras are shooting in log. So in terms of color grading, there's a lot more flexibility. Like, you know, this is one of the softwares movies are made in. Premiere Pro is the same, but it just doesn't have the flexibility in terms of the color, unless you really spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on doing it. But DaVinci is the best color grading software we've found, but it lacks in putting your edit together.
Yeah.
So it's just where your priorities are. If you're like, I want to make my color grading the best as I can be, you might go DaVinci, but then you have to deal with, just the headaches of DaVinci. But you can also color grade in DaVinci, export all your files, and then start editing in Premiere Pro. That's what I do all the time. So there's plenty of flexibility, but Premiere Pro, when you're starting out, just start with that, I think.
It's easy to make, like you can have it all laid out on one screen as well, and you can completely customize your workspace, which I'm sure you can do in the others, but I'm not as familiar as I am with Premiere Pro. So I've got mine set up with most of the stuff I make at the moment is all reels. So, on the side of mine, I've got the project constantly playing on one side. Then I've got a heap of bins made up at the top, which got the project files in them. Then they've got any graphics I want in them. Audio, like music. It's just easy to lay out. It's easy to just keep track of everything. So that's why I find that really, really good. But another thing that's going to come with the editing software is then your audio and / music subscriptions as well. So at the start, you can't just go and just pick songs.
Don't go chuck like a Justin Bieber or something, like they'll come after you. It's like anything commercial. Look, unless you're producing the video for yourself and you're only going to watch it yourself, then
doesn't really matter.
Nothing's going to happen. But as soon as you start pushing it out on social media or anything, then you're going to start running into trouble. So in terms of music subscription softwares, look, unless you post, I know with YouTube you can post remixes and music there because they have the rights. I don't know whether it's in bed, but you just have to like mention them in the not the comment section, but there's like a licensing part. Yeah, it's like you can do it that way, but then you can't monetize and all these other things. I can't quite give you so don't hold me to anything that I say about YouTube, but I think you can potentially do it on there. But best music service providers, license-free music service providers are probably MusicBed. For
songs, MusicBed. They don't do sound effects or anything. They're just full-length songs.
Got Artlist.
Artlist has got a lot. Epidemic Sound's really good for sound effects.
So Epidemic Sound's probably the best for weddings. I found, I was just editing our BizTalk podcast the other day and I was jumping around through Epidemic Sound and I found it was really good for that creative type work. So, stories and weddings and all that sort of stuff, but it lacked in the corporate side of stuff, which I was trying to produce the podcast for. I was able to just find one song, but it took me so long. And I knew if I was on MusicBed, I was able to find that really, really quickly. And we just, as a cost saving, we were only subscribed to one service provider at one time because there's no point having 4 unless you can afford it and you're happy to pay for it. 4 subscriptions for music.
Yeah. And it's just, you'll find what works best for yourselves.
Soundstrap's a good one as well.
Oh, yeah. If you're mainly just focusing on weddings, I think Epidemic Sound will have everything covered that you need. Yep. And they've got everything's completely categorized, whether it's music or it's sounds, and then you've got the genres, and you can literally you can find a song, but say you just really like the kicker in the beat, you can isolate just that, and you can take that, you can break it down quite far.
You can just take out the vocals. You can just take you can just pull out the instruments. It breaks it down. You can take the full mix, or as Riley said, you can just take the drum out or the bass out, or
a lot more flexibility.
It's got a lot more flexibility. In terms of a good starting point, I think Epidemic Sound, I used to use it and I got rid of it because I found the other one better, but now it's kind of gone the other way and I find Epidemic Sound's now lifted their game. They're doing a really good job now. In terms of the creative aspect, if you're in more corporate and stuff, I think one of the other ones is probably better.
That's basically that's the camera gear you want, then that's the editing and softwares and stuff that we'd recommend, and then the one that's really going to help you throughout the booking process, and then your delivery process is your CRM on your back end, and then how you actually deliver your final videos. So I know a lot of people at the start, they just do it by Dropbox, but the couples are paying all this money
You want it
for
to
your
look
films,
nice,
you want it to look like everything as professional as you can along the way. So we use
VidFlow. We won't give too many of our secrets away because we're going to keep some in. But yeah, in terms of delivery software, there's a few out there now. You can actually do it through. I think if you've got Pixie even PickTime now has a video play feature. It's not very good, but we found VidFlow is the best, and you're not paying a monthly subscription, you're just paying per. It's like
per gallery.
Yeah, you get like a storage limit per project. So, I think it's up to 5 gigabytes is free or something, and then anything more than that, then you have to add like credit, which is like $5 per credit, and then it works it out something like that. So you're actually paying per project, which is really, really good because you don't have a monthly subscription coming out and you'll be like, I haven't done a wedding for 6 months. Why am I getting charged for 6 months worth of stuff? So you actually can pay per project, which is really, really good.
They've got different templates in there.
Templates. You can customize it. You can play music when people go. I found it's really easy for people to stream on Apple TV and just their TVs in general. They've built out their back end really, really well. So it connects to apps and stuff really, really well.
You can download everything.
I guess the only downside is it's only up there for 12 months and then it'll get rid of the files just because they're trying to save as much storage on their end because video files are really, really big. So it'll actually just wipe that file within 12 months. It'll keep like a small archive of that gallery for you, but it'll delete like the internal files. So you might have to re-upload those files again if you have them on file. But that's probably the only downside. But 12 months, like that couple should be able to download it within that 12 months and store it straight put it on a USB, and you're golden.
Yeah, and then there's your back end, I guess, managing everything. Like we use Studio Ninja at the moment, but we're working on something else in the background, which we think will help elevate the easiness of the experience with a couple and for yourselves, like managing everything in one spot. But we're still working on that at the moment. But we've been using Studio Ninja for the last 18 months. We started with ShootQ, which was
we started with ShootQ.
Frustrating.
We've used quite a few, and we found Studio Ninja was the best. To shout out to Rick Liston, he kind of got us onto that through his
workflow, which
through his workflow, and we've used it ever since then. It's been great. It does lack in a few areas in terms of its basicness and its customizability. I think that's a word.
That's the app. That's not Rick's workflow, by the way.
No. This isn't Rick's work. This is just the actual Studio Ninja thing. But they're one of the best CRMs for weddings out there. So they haven't had to push the envelope in terms of design yet, which I think I'm sure they will in the future. But yeah, we're just testing a few at the moment. Whatever works best for you, whatever you find it easiest to set up. I find their setup is pretty simple. But with that simplicity can become, if you want to stand out from the crowd, you might want something a bit different that offers like a more active client portal, which we've just got into. Just little things that can just up your experience for the client. Like there's one over in the States, Honeybook. Shout out to you if you can at least just give us a test run of it, because you've had it for literally 4, 5, 6 years, and we are just waiting for Honeybook to give us the chance to even use it and just test it. So I'm constantly just hounding them, like, when are you coming to Australia? Like, just get it here, because we just want to test it. Like, it just looks like a really good platform to use in terms of its usability and what you can do with client portals and all this sort of stuff. Like, it just looks clean. It's well designed, but we just want to test it and just get it here and so we can test it.
But the basic rundown of what Studio Ninja is and how it works is you can set workflows for different jobs. So they've got a heap
automates the tasks that you're doing every day, so you're not wasting as much time replying to people and doing that sort of stuff.
So you can do like so ours is set for inquiry phase, booked phase, and post wedding date phase. So you can have as many as you want. You can change all the templates to suit. Ours is set to suit like different like couples and same-sex couples and everything else that comes with that. You can so you can have if you've got a bride and groom inquire with you and they want video, then you can send it all out and you can use whatever terminology you like. And then if you've got same-sex couples, you can have the exact same workflow, but you can have certain words and stuff changed so that you're just aware of what everybody's comfortable with,
Yeah, it
being
just might
cool
be
and all
your
the rest of it.
it might just be how you structure your wording around emails and things.
Yeah.
That's all. But there's so much customized. Yeah, as I said, you can customize it to however you like.
Yeah.
You can go as in depth or as easy as you want. They have pre-templates and stuff as well, which you can just tinker.
Yeah.
They got like contracts in there. They're not like legally binding contracts. You might want to get them looked over by a lawyer, but it's like a good starting point to your contracts.
Yeah.
And then you can just change like your business name, what you offer. You can add sort of auto pre-fills with, the customer's details. So you're not always having to type in their details. Every contract you're sending or every invoice you're sending, like it just pre-populates things. Just saves you time at the end of the day. Like it's just, if you set it up once, it'll take you a bit of time to set up. But once that's set up,
you're good to go.
You won't have to touch it hardly ever again, apart from just, putting in a few clicks, maybe just customizing a message every now and then.
As you go.
Yeah, it's kind of all set up and done for you.
And then once you've got all that stuff sorted, because I feel like you need to get all these bits and pieces sorted before you just you could just buy a camera and go and shoot. But you want to have these things at least in process before you go. So when you comes around to shooting, you don't get there and you get back and you're like, oh, I lost this email from the couple, or I didn't have this set in place, or how am I going to edit this? I don't even know where to start. So when you've got all that sorted and it comes to shooting your first weddings or getting involved, you can start out by second shooting for someone. So you can reach out to a company that you like and say, hey, I'm just getting into video. Do you mind if I just, follow you around for a day? You might not even shoot. You might just basically be shadowing them the whole time. That's a really good way to learn on site, because there's
we take on a few second shooters that just want to come and work for us, and they're more than happy to tag along.
Yeah, you want to learn without having the pressure of delivering the end result, see how they go about it, because there's a lot more than just shooting. It's like how you engage with the couple, how you engage with other vendors, parents, guests, how you carry yourself, how you structure things, how much you can help on the day. There's so much more to just shooting. So that's something we really recommend reaching out and doing first. You can also do styled shoots, which is a little bit more involved. You've got to organise everything. But if you've got friends that are engaged and you want to do a mini elopement type video, just to start out, you can say, hey guys, you can rent some clothes. You can just get them to do their own makeup. You can go and get a bouquet made if you wanted. You could go to the Cliffs in Flinders Ranges or something this, set it up, get them to write
go
fake
to a forest, go to an open field, wherever, just to get some shots for your portfolio, because that's the hardest thing starting out is you don't have anything to show couples, and you're not going to attract the couples unless you're not going to attract the couples that you want unless you've got photos of exactly what they want. Yeah. If that makes sense. So
and it gives you
if you're not in a field taking photos and that couple wants photos or video in a field and you don't have it, well, they're going to go to someone else.
Yeah. And it gives you that the same again. It's you sort of learning as you go without the pressure of, delivering on a X amount of dollar job. And then the last one that comes with it is just shooting for free. So you might do that styled shoot or that basic shoot with friends that are engaged, and then by the time of their wedding comes around, they might go, hey, look, you might ask them, hey, can I shoot your wedding for free? And you can just learn that way, but obviously then there's no price involved, which takes out that aspect of living up to the expectation of the money value. And you can learn that way. You could do 2 or 3 for free. You'll figure out one if you really like it or not.
We can just start out really cheap as well. I'm on a few Facebook groups, and there's just a few photographers and videographers there to say, hey, I'm just getting into video or photo, happy to charge you $500 for the whole day. And at least it covers, your travel and all that sort of stuff. So if you're against the free model and all this, just charge a couple $100 and, a wedding couple is going to be happy to pay you that. Otherwise, if you're more than happy to shoot free, then you're probably going to get even better. You're probably going to get better weddings, I would say. Because if you can go shoot in the Yarra Valley and just be like, hey, I'll shoot your wedding for free, even if there's another photographer there or videographer there, then they're going to take you.
Yeah, I'd definitely personally do free first. You want to take out as much stress for yourself as you can possible, and then if you could do 1 or 2 free ones and then go, $500 or $1,000 and whatever you want to be.
And if you can get a review out of it as well, it's even better.
Yeah, I think definitely just ease yourself into it, as much as there's other aspects of the video industry, where it be corporate or just personal content creation or whatever it might be. You can go in all guns blazing and just try whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it's someone's wedding. And if you're not quite 100% there yet, don't just there is an aspect of fake it till you make it, but be really smart about where you're faking it, because you don't want to, these people.
You don't want that couple worried on their day going, oh, have they got this? Did they just miss my ceremony or the first kiss or whatever it is?
And just communicate very much so like that you are starting out, you are very new to the industry or whatever your experience level.
Just
you
be
might
upfront and honest.
Something else. Yeah, because then they're not expecting like, oh, this guy's going to shoot my wedding for free, but he reckons he's going to like smash it out the park and it's going to be
high expectation
this
and
movie. Yeah. And then it, that doesn't live up to that. So, definitely start out like that. You could even do a couple on your own and then maybe go back to a second shooter you started with just to refresh your brain because you're in a different mental space.
Yep.
You've learned a little bit more. You might be able to pick up on something else you didn't last time. So, and then from there, obviously, develop your style and you can start charging more. You can buy better equipment and then the ball just continues to roll.
So I think there was just maybe 2 points we didn't touch on in terms of equipment, and that was just make sure you have a lot of extra batteries. Like the Blackmagic just chews through them, like the actual little Canon LP E9s or whatever they are. They just absolutely chew through batteries. So make sure I think I got 6 or 7 batteries, and I've got a V-mount battery as well, which runs through the ceremony. Canon batteries play the same. They chew through quite a bit of battery as well. So make sure you just have extra batteries. Like don't skimp on the batteries because there's nothing worse than you actually can't operate your camera at all. And then probably just in terms of because we didn't touch on it with videos, like should you have a gimbal? Should you be handheld? There's a multitude of different ways you can do it. Like Riley goes handheld sometimes on this camera, the R5, Canon R5.
But that's because it's got in-body stabilization.
It's got in-body stabilization and it's got a stabilized lens as well. So it's going to be pretty steady in the hand. That doesn't mean that anyone can just pick it up and start shooting it. You obviously have to learn how to be still with the camera as you're shooting. There's multiple YouTube videos like Peter McKinnon and that showing you how to have 3 points of contact while you're moving and just how to be really small with your movement so you don't have any jerks up and down or left, right or whatever. And then the other road you can go down, there's a few different ways. You can go on a monopod, just a straight monopod, which is just
a one-legged tripod.
One-legged tripod. If you don't know what it is, you might think, well, that's not a video kind of tool, but there's plenty of really good wedding videographers that just use a monopod because that'll just keep it stable. So you might, if you're not comfortable shooting handheld, that might be your next step is just get a monopod so at least it's secured kind of fixedly to the ground and then you're just moving left, right and you just got a more stable base. And then from there you can jump up into a gimbal, whether it's a DJI Ronin or something like that, or a Zion Crane, in terms of your cheaper options.
Steadicam you can do before the gimbal if you're really tight.
Yeah, you can do Steadicam or Glide Cam, whatever they're called. I've tried to use them and they were not fun, even though there's guys swearing by them and they've got massive left bicep and a small right one now. But in terms of holding that up for a whole wedding day, I have no interest in that. And that's the same with the gimbal. Just be wary of the weight. Like the gimbal I'm on is made out of carbon fiber, so the gimbal's light, but my camera is heavy. So after a wedding day, I'm pretty cooked. But during the ceremony and stuff, I've actually got it on a monopod. So I've got a gimbal on a monopod, if that makes sense, because then I'm not always having to put the gimbal down on the ground. I can have it on the monopod, and I actually learned this. I was at the cricket and I saw one of the Fox Sports guys just rocking around with this. I'm like, what a cool idea. So I got a monopod, attached it to the gimbal and it works really, really well. The only problem is it's really hard to you can't kind of leave it. I've had a few times where it's nearly fallen over where I've just left it to go, eat some food or whatever. So you just always have to be onto it and make sure it's probably at its lowest setting. It's the most stable it can be, but that's another option if you don't want to carry around the gimbal the whole time. But if you can master the handheld and stuff, I did that for a little bit, even on like a Gorilla Pod, just because it had the longer kind of tripod. It looked a bit funny, but I shot on the 1DX for nearly our first 12 months just on that, and it was fine because I had a stabilized lens and I was shooting a really slow 120 frames a second, so I was able to get everything was smooth. So there's just a few different options you can get it, just trial and error. But that was just obviously a really important point to touch on with video because people are like, well, I've got the camera. now what do I just start shooting with my hands?
Yeah.
When they see everyone on these, impressive things, or they got the backpack shoulder with the
Justin Porter from the
they've got the backpack and it's got the the massive arm that goes over, and then they've a string that comes down, attaches to your camera, and you can walk around and the camera's just off you, just dangling.
Yeah,
so there's so many options.
That's very that's like what they do to film.
Yeah,
movies.
it's
But
like a complete film set. So
what
you
it does.
it just depends what you want to pay and what makes you most comfortable, because wedding day is a long day. So if you can't handle if you can't handle the weight, whether you are just female or male, and you don't want to be carrying around a gimbal and you're like your arms are hurting after a few hours, then you might want to look at just more handheld because you're just carrying around the camera, or you might want to just look at just a monopod, just whatever makes you feel comfortable. Like there are some pretty well built guys in the industry that will just be happy carrying around the heaviest gear because they see it as like a workout at the same time. But I don't see it like that. It's like a long day. Just be as comfortable as you can because you don't want to be tired, and then as you get tired, your footage becomes shaky because you're moving. Yeah, that's it. Pretty well. Make sure you're comfortable in your gear at the end of the day. Yep. You want to have full confidence in it. But yeah, just to quickly run over everything that we went about. First off was your equipment. So nullifying or picking what camera brand you want to go with, checking what settings it does have. You can talk to people in store, do all your research online. There's so many videos about there about every single even just message us if you're like, should I get a Sony or a Canon, or
we shoot Canon.
There's pros and cons to everything. Like we can give you our opinion on Sony, but we haven't used one of their newer cameras yet. So if you're looking at a Canon, feel free to just send us a message and we can tell you if that's the right camera to get, or if there's something else you should be looking at. And
then lenses. That's where you're going to want to put your money. Get a good body. Put your money in your lenses at the start, and then when you think you need that extra quality, like whatever the camera produces, then you can go up from there. But lenses is another one. Your audio equipment, make sure you've got multiple backups, wireless mics.
So that's probably like one of the important ones. Just make sure you get your audio right. You'll be amazed at how much of a difference that can make, and how much of a headache that can be as well.
Yeah, it is something that you don't want to stress about on the day. And then the other bits and pieces that come around it, your tripods, extra batteries, SD cards, all those bits and pieces. Make sure you can get everything off Amazon. If you put all your money into your main equipment or your batteries and all that other bits, you can get off Amazon. Keep your setup nice and cheap, and you've got all your editing softwares. Premiere Pro, DaVinci, and Final Cut. Look into those. Look into Lights for your colouring. Whatever music subscription is going to work best for you. There's things to go over, and then your back end, so your CRM, which will be Studio Ninja, and then VidFlow to deliver your videos. There might be something else out there, but that's just what we use. And then how to book them. So start with your second shooting, shoot for free, organise a styled shoot if you want, and then you can start charging there according to your skill level.
So you get in the industry,
There's a lot that goes into it. It can turn around pretty quick depending on how fast you pick it up. But hopefully these tips have helped you out. And
this can go so much more in depth, like in terms of the editing side. There's so many things we can discuss, how to set up your computer in terms of hard drives and all these sort of things to make your process as efficient as possible. I think we've touched on just the basics of stuff today. But these things can go just down rabbit holes. So we're just giving you the basics. If there's, I'm sure we'll talk more in depth about certain topics as we go. This just covers the basics. And as you said, just get out there. If you've got an unlimited wallet, get the new stuff. Otherwise, there's plenty of used gear. Otherwise, you can rent stuff as well for like minimum 6 months. And then if you're not happy with it, return it back. Yeah, exactly. There's so many ways that you can do it, and we've done it as well. And it's taken us quite 3-4 years to get the gear that we've had. Like we didn't have it straight off the bat. So
we're still not 100% set on all the stuff we have. We're always changing our setups, as our own sort of creative flows change and what we want to add to videos and whatnot. But if you've enjoyed this and this has helped you in either starting out or things that you didn't know, we would really appreciate a 5 stars review. Make sure you subscribe and follow on for more. But thanks so much for listening to episode 2 of Wedtalk.
Easy.
And we'll catch you on the next one.
Cool. See you then.